I breathe the wild blood, the ancient design. The shapers of Asgard built towers of stone, but the dirt holds the claim of the marrow and bone. I feed the brood on the flesh of the dead. Soon the sky will be painted with a fog of red. Hear the pack align, hear the iron pine.
The silver wheel will break, the mother's power wakes.
Yarn with the ironwood and iron bar. Yarn with the witches on a shadow throne.
Rise up the claws,
Swallow the sun. The doom of usurpers has just begun. Now, Skull hunts the daylight, Hati hunts the moon. The cage of their order will shatter out soon. I cradle the hunter, I harbor the jaws that answer to nothing but older raw laws. The winter is waking, the shadow line draws. No walls of the tyrants can hold back our claws. Yarn with the ironwood and iron bar. Yarn with the witches on her shadow throne. Rise up the claws, swallow the sun. Doom of usurpers has just begun. Now, Takala! Tear them asunder, tear them asunder, tear them asunder, tear them asunder, tear them asunder. Near Banbridge town in the county down, one morning in July, from a bohin green I was clearly seen as I went traipsing by. He stood quite still as if struck by a chill or a vision of ancient grace, and he gazed with a stare at my nut-brown hair till the blood rushed to his face. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no lad I've seen has a look so I saw here in County Down. I gave no sign as he watched the line of my shadow as I passed, but I felt the heat of his gaze so sweet, and I knew the spell was cast. He gripped his walking stick with a hand so quick as he tripped o'er his feet. For a lad so bold, he was knocked from his hold by a girl that he chanced to meet. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no lad I've met hasn't a name to set 'gainst the star of the County Down. Now they say he's gone to the harvest fair with the heart all in a knot, to ask my name and to play the game and to find my humble cot. Well, let him come and let him drum his fingers on the door. If he's half the wit as he's got the grit, I might like him a wee bit more. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, ne'er a lad I've sought has a heart so caught by the star of the County Down. Snow on the heather, smoke from the roofs. I stand on the ridgeline, breathing the proof. Sky like a pale bowl, frost in my hair, name on my tongue tip, thin in the air. I call across the pines, he's yellow, high and wild and wide. If you're lost, then follow the sound. Let it guide you through the night. I call across the pines, bare feet on the ground. If your heart can hear my cry, you will find your way back home. Tracks in the powder, turning and gone. Wind takes the branches, braids them in song. Far in the darkness, something replies, echo or answer. tears in my eyes. Where are you now? I won't fall silent. Call across the pines, he's yellow. Why, if you're lost, then follow the sound. Let it guide you through the night. Come home. Come home.
Welcome back to the tavern, my friends. So very glad that you could join us. Hello, 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 everyone. And yes, it is the Emerald Lady's birthday, if I remember correctly. I think that was being discussed over here before I got in. So let's go ahead and raise a glass to the Emerald Lady. Jody, happy birthday. Congratulations on another circle around the sun. Sláinte. There's our favorite barkeep, Mental Dragon. Thank you for the bits as well as for the resub. I appreciate you for that. Teresa, congratulations on 25. And Tyson, congratulations on 35 consecutive story times. What a spectacular... Ow, Jesus. Castle, I could hear you chatting with the lady about Sherlock. I can't say I disagree with the view. You guys know by now that for me, adaptations are just are a no-go. They're just a non-starter for me. Let's go ahead and see who's all in. We're going to start over on the Twitch portal. Bear, Jody the Mental Dragon, Frostbeard, Chatty Matty. We've got Teresa, we've got Tyson. And I think that is everyone. Yes, it is. Welcome in, my friends. It's so very good to see you all. And then we have Dave Day, Neko Oniji. Or I would assume that's Neko Oniji, like Japanese. Welcome in. And then Im Delius. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Dave Day, good to see you. So very glad that you could drop in. And then over on the Facebook portal, we have George Laborde. Hello, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you again. A fine night for a tankard of ale and a story. Indeed, indeed. And George says, happy birthday to the lady. Jody, the Emerald's lady. Not the lady. But yes, welcome in, friends. It's good to see you all. Let's, real quick, get a... Where did it go? Oh, there it is. So you can get your tavern fare there, Mental Dragon. I'm going to pop that again. Jessica, hello, good to see you. Mike, hello, welcome in. Songbird, hello, good to see you. Hello, 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 my friends. Why is the tavern... Oh, it is, but it's been moved. Why has it been moved? Nope, don't move that. Yeah. Load box. It's all the way down here. I don't want it down there. Now it should pop. There we go. Enjoy your Green Man's draft. Why it's oddly sized now too. Okay, that should be fixed. Mozart, hello as well, and then the Boogie Monster have found us again. Her doors do appear whenever... I cashed in a kitty tax for the menace who was on the table. Oh, Boo? I don't know. Do you still have Boo, Loving? Do you still have Boo? Matty is cashed in kitty. The grumpy old man. Very grouchy. Will you calm down? Look at how upset he is. Look at how he's just he's not happy that you perturbed his rest upon mother's lap. You're welcome, Jody. I'm happy that you came in to spend a little bit of your birthday with us. So you had steak. That's a fine birthday meal, as well as some tiramisu for a birthday cake. Wouldn't be my first choice. I usually like cheesecake for birthdays. I'm not much of a bread guy, so I prefer other things. Thank you, Songbird. Anyone else have spooky skies today from the Canada fires? Not down near me, but I'm a far ways from Canada, so this place is almost as refreshing as the great fairy willows of Hyrule. That is a hell of a compliment, Boogie Monster. Molly Sue, hello. I like pie. Pie is definitely a good option as well. I'm not much of a cake man. Like I do eat more pastries because of the lady. She enjoys pastries, so I'll go and I'll enjoy them with her. But I'm more of a pie or cheesecake kind of guy myself. Steak with spaghetti squash, cauliflower, and mashed potatoes. That's a fine southern dinner you got going on right there. But yes, this is Boo. He's the old man. He's grumpy, and he's spoiled to death by his mother. And he's so upset I came and perturbed him and took him away from his snuggles. But you could see, like, he's just, like, stretched out, trying to make it as absolutely inconvenient to hold him as possible. Who makes the cheesecake? I make a pretty good cheesecake. Okay, I'm gonna go take it back to the lady because he's just being a butthead. Dude, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Relax. Relax. What do you want? Okay. The Scorch Queen joins us. It's been some time. We're usually getting on too late for you to be in here. Ugh. Castle, how dare you give me cheesecake cravings? You should be craving cheesecake at every hour of every day, Matty. It's the only appropriate time to crave cheesecake is all the time. What kind of crust? See, a lot of people really like that graham cracker crust. I don't necessarily agree that graham cracker crust is the best way to go. You can do... The sun was orange here all afternoon. Wow. Sounds, like you said, both pretty and spooky. I was putting the kids to bed. Well, that's where they should be this time of night. Destiny for 66 months. Enjoy your mead of the Morning Star there. What kind of crust? So, a lot of people really like the graham cracker crust for their cheesecake. I like soda bread crust. I like a cookie crust. And even if it's, depending on how you're doing it, like if you're doing a baked cheesecake, even just like a little bit of puff pastry or like a regular pie crust, but like a thin pie crust for the cheesecake is delicious. The Oreo crust is good. It depends on the type of cheesecake. Like you have to have a very specific kind of cheesecake to go with Oreo crust. Like I think you can have like a regular New York cheesecake that'll go well with an Oreo crust because Oreos are very sweet to me. And because cheesecake is already kind of sweet, especially if you're making something else other than just regular cheesecake. Cheesecake sampler boxes are awesome at Homestyle Bakery. You should try a pretzel crust caramel. I do like pretzels and caramel. I don't eat a whole lot of sweet stuff. I do love a good Irish soda bread, as you should. I agree, you do need a specific cheesecake for it. Yeah, because it's good, but one, Oreo crust is dry, so you need a moist cheesecake for it. And two, it needs to balance out like a tartar cheesecake, like a New York style cheesecake goes well with it because then you've got that tart to balance it out. Rockhound, hello my friend. Hey brother, I have a request for you at some point. Fire away. If I am able, I will facilitate. Tiramisu is one of my favorites. I also like red velvet, German chocolate cake, pound cake, and angel food. I do like pound cake. I don't like old pound cake. Like a good velvety pound cake, I do like. German chocolate cake is like an old. My mother used to make a killer German chocolate cake. I don't eat those sorts of things as much anymore because they hurt my teeth, and I just don't eat that much sugar anyways. Tiramisu, the lady loves tiramisu, so does the boy. And I like a good red velvet as well. Angel food cake is okay if you've got like fresh strawberries for it, but I don't like angel food cake on its own. I make a 3-pound, 10-inch cheesecake when I make it. I call it 3 pounds because that's how much cream cheese is. That's insane. That is massive. Do you think you can cover some info on the twat they done it? Actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, Rockhound. The lady and I are in the process of doing a long Storytime series over on YouTube on Celtic history and the myths of the Isles. So over the next couple of months, we're going to be going through everything that is available academically and culturally for the myths of Ireland and Scotland, as well as the history of the Celts across everything. We'll also be going into Welsh mythology and Cornish mythology, as well as some of the myths of the Britons. And that'll include full stories on the Tuatha Dé Danann, and it'll also include some of my family stories. As a tavern runner, you should do a video about pickup lines as well. I suppose I could. The more you post, the long story times take a little bit longer to get, but we try to post them every 2 weeks. I never tried that. Shortbread or pecan sandies have been my go-to over graham crackers lately. Ooh, pecan sandies actually sounds interesting. Shortbread, I had never thought, but I suppose shortbread is, yeah, like you could use shortbread as a pie crust. I hadn't thought of that either. Says, man, much appreciated, and evidently great minds think alike. Great minds think alike, but poor ones rarely differ, as they say. Which a lot of people think is the old original version of that saying. It's actually, that version of the saying is more recent, which is very funny. Susan, thank you for the heart, mate. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Rabbit uses ginger nut biscuit base for my mom's cheesecake. Oh, ginger nut biscuits. So are those like ginger snaps from the UK or from the US, Bear? I'm not expecting you to know that, but I like ice cream. I think we can all agree that ice cream cake is the genuinely superior cake because you get ice cream and cake. Good evening, Susan. It's good to see you. Welcome in. Yeah, we'll go ahead and let those run. and then we'll get started with story time. Castle, running this by you real quick. Does the name Thrud Thunderhand sound okay? I'm fixing an outline and have a character named Thruder. Why is the character named Thunderhand? Is it just because Thrud is the daughter of Odin, or Thrud is the daughter of Thor in Norse mythology, or is there a functional reason in the story that the character is called Thunderhand? Because one of the things you have to understand about Norse culture and Norse myth is that names were functional. They weren't given as points of vanity. A lot of nobody wanted to be called Harold Bluetooth, right? But that was what he ended up being called. Eric the Red was called Eric the Red because of his hair and his temper. And same thing with Harold Fairhair and Hakon Forkbeard and all of these guys. Nobody really gave them Biscoff, not discomfort. Biscoff cookies make a tastier crust than straight graham crackers. I would agree with that. Biscoff cookies have a little bit more flavor to them, and they're not quite as dry. So she's named for Thor's daughter in and out of universe, but why the last name Thunderhand? Because, again, surnames in Norse culture are functional. So she can't just be named Thruder Thunderhand, because she would be Thruder Thor's daughter. That would be functionally how the name would be made. So if she has the surname Thunderhand, that has to be as a result of something. If you're following Norse culture, if you're asking, does the name sound fine? Yeah, like for a fantasy novel, that sounds fine. I'll get back to you on that. Okay, I appreciate you, Bear. Discomfort cookies sounds like a cookie I would make, though, right? Oh, in my story, in her culture, her surname is meritocratic. Okay, so she's earned the name Thunderhand somehow. You just have to make sure that makes sense within your story. Otherwise, it's going to come off as you just gave her this name because it sounds cool. And which a lot of fantasy authors do. It's not a sin to do that. It does cheapen the story a little bit. It does make the depth of your story... It basically breadths the story without deepening it. And a lot of fantasy novels in modern day do that, so you don't have to feel bad about that. But you just have to make sure that you know what you're doing and prepare for what is going to come on the back end of it. That depends. Some of the mainstream products are becoming quite bland lately. Homestyle is best. I agree with that. Jessica says, oh my god, ice cream cake with chocolate crunchies. Yeah, there's that. Yo, my kids ate 3 pounds of broccoli today. When are you guys going to get in trouble for deforestation in your area because of your children, Destiny? They're going to come for you. Now I'm wanting to eat cheesecake again. All the time is the appropriate time to desire cheesecake. You should desire cheesecake at every hour of every day. Get down! These cats. Constantly jumping up over things. Yes, ginger nut and ginger snaps are basically the same thing, but ginger snaps are a little thinner and a bit more sticky. Okay, so yeah. That would make a ginger snap pie crust sounds delicious, as a matter of fact. Sounds like a cookie someone stuck a laxative into. They were complaining that they didn't get enough veg on our trip. True, so that's all they ate today. I mean, that's a good problem to have. That's a good problem to have. I'm ready for autumn pies and gingerbread tiramisu. I think one of the more exciting things about the prospect that the lady and I will be able to have festivals in the future where you all can come and visit is that I'll get to actually make some of the cultural and familial foods that I grew up with and share them with you all. Because one of the greatest joys for me is not just sharing stories, but sharing stories around food. I'm the oddball in the conversation. I'm not a fan of cheesecake. It's a texture thing for me. We're going to run ads real quick, everybody. We're going to be in ads for 3 minutes over on Twitch, and then when we come back, we'll have an hour without them. We're going to start pretty much right after we get back from ads. Frost, have you tried transfer drive is full. Hang on. Guys, give me just a second. Knows what happened to the chair. The cat peed on it. Milo decided to pee and then sleep on the chair while I was gone. Oh, I saw a guy make a chocolate cake out of an avocado once. See, it's weird, but it kind of makes sense because there's, well, Velveeta cheese, no. Avocado, I can kind of understand because it's got sort of a creamy texture to it. I don't care for avocados. I think it tastes like mushed up grass. But if you were to use an avocado as like a texture thing and fat, I can see how with the rest of a cake it might be okay. But with the Velveeta cheese, absolutely not. Okay, I was just fixing the story. Thankfully, she's not like. It's not like I can't show the how, but I'm tempted to change it later to something else because her powers are controlling plants. I just love the alliteration in her name, so I'm trying to keep that if I do change it. It's fair enough. My cousin finally talked me into giving her my mom's cheesecake recipe after years of nagging me and telling her that my mom's cheesecake is one of the most closely guarded secrets in the known universe. Yeah. Finally woke up. Favorite in my family is pinto bean cake. Tastes like a spice cake. Yeah, like you can use odd things in confectionaries if you are working on things. Gelatin-based cheesecake has a nice texture, very silky. Yeah, and there's a couple of countries that do gelatin-based cheesecakes. I don't care for them, but the flavor is still good. My favorite is my grandma's bread and her fudge. Hank, hello, Hank Williams, huh? Is it the Hank Williams? Welcome in, my friend. Val, hello, good to see you. Thank you kindly for the tavern gift. I appreciate you for that. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. I had mac and cheese for lunch, no Velveeta in this house, homemade cheese sauce. Yeah, the closest we get to like a pre-made macaroni is the boy likes the Annie's ones, like the Annie's mac and cheese. That's the closest we get to pre-made mac and cheese. Otherwise, the lady and I make whatever. Like, we'll either do like a pasta with oil and melted cheese, or I'll make a cheese sauce. The lady doesn't like cheese sauce, so we don't really do that all that often unless the boy wants it. Frost, what I was going to ask is, have you tried? Gosh, what are they called? Baked cheesecake, and then there is God, hang on, I got my brain's not working. Ooh, Japanese cotton style cheesecake is very good. souffle cheesecake. Because baked cheesecake and souffle cheesecake have a very different texture to like the normal sort of rare cheesecake that we eat, that is the unbaked kind. I smoked pineapple with brown sugar and tahini for an hour today. It was incredible with pork chops. See, that sounds delicious. I don't like pineapple in any context. But I will still eat it with certain things if it is a complement to whatever flavor that thing is. But I just don't care for... I don't care for mango, I don't care for carrots, and I don't like pineapple. But there are some occasions where I will eat it just because of the principle. Yes, Destiny, we know. Destiny didn't get hugged enough as a child, we're aware. 87 streams, wow. Milo, hello, Matty, I need to send you a picture of that pamphlet. The Great Depression gifted us with many odd dishes, such as me. One of the funniest things, there's this little guy on TikTok who does a lot of like 1880s to 1950s baking, and he's hilarious. Yeah, there's a running joke within the tavern about pineapple on pizza. My joke is that people who like pineapple on pizza didn't get hugged enough as children. Didn't have good figures in their life, which I generally find to be very true. But as much as I strongly dislike pineapple on pizza and I find it to be an abomination before man, you're allowed to like what you like. Yeah, and there are even worse perpetrators who put blueberries and kiwi on pizza. If my taste buds are broken, alright? If my taste buds are broken, so are Gordon Ramsay's. Because Gordon Ramsay has outright said, you have to be an idiot sandwich to put pineapple on pizza. Okay? The greatest chef to ever exist agrees with me, not you guys. You're allowed to like your terrible pizza, but the greatest chef to ever live agrees with me. Yes, Destiny and I have been arguing about this for 6+ years at this point. I hesitate to answer, is this why I like it? Explains so much. Yes. Yeah. Not enough hugs as a child. Yes, Gordon Ramsay has reached the pinnacle of cooking, to a point that now he just lets his children cook for him because he's got enough of that godly aura that some of it transfers over. Clifford, hello, my friend. Welcome in. Good to see you. Good to see you. I already brushed my teeth. We can't be talking about food like this. That's true. That's true. A lot of you are already getting ready for bed. In our family, the most closely guarded recipe is Virginia eggnog. Eggnog is one of those things. I don't really do a lot of sweet stuff. Like, I drink some soft drinks, and soft drink is like my vice at this point. But I don't really like that many sweet things. I will drink gallons of eggnog. I love eggnog. Yeah, but then Gordon Ramsay's a prat. That might be true, but he's a prat who's the greatest chef in the world. I like pineapple juice and the fruit, not on pizza though. Yeah, and to me, like, pineapple curdles cheese and milk, as all citrus does. And if somebody came to me and they were like, "I like lemons on my pizza," I would be just as appalled by that. I have a massive sweet tooth. I did a little bit when I was younger, but I grew up mostly in Ireland and in Norway, and there's not a whole lot of like sweets culture in the parts of Norway and the Faroes and Ireland that I grew up in. And most of like the candies and things I grew up with were like honey hardened fruit and things like that. My kids would bite into pineapple like an apple if I let them. That's insane. Have you seen the new Coke? It's cherry float flavored. I haven't. I hardly ever leave the tavern. The lady and I are always in here. I can do a thimble size of eggnog, and that's it for the next year. Yeah, I see. Eggnog is one of those things. Like I will, and the lady loves baked goods too. Like her biggest weaknesses are coffee and baked goods. She loves just regular bread. Like this woman, if you've got warm bread, she'll eat a whole loaf of warm bread with nothing else on it. If you got like a nice warm, fresh out of the oven loaf of bread, she doesn't even like bananas, but I've made her banana bread twice, and she's basically eaten 60, 70% of the loaf by herself because she loves bread so much and cooking. I don't know about that. I think Jamie Oliver gives him a run for his money. He might give him a run for his money, but I don't think he'd get it. And again, like I don't even say this as somebody who particularly likes Gordon Ramsay, but if you look at the overall accomplishments and the levels of mastery that have been achieved, there's no one who beats Gordon Ramsay. It just like it's like a lot of people argue in basketball about like who the best basketball players are, and I haven't watched sports in ages. And like you, Steph Curry's pretty good, and LeBron is a good player, but no, there has not been anybody since Michael Jordan who was as good as Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are the two best players to ever play the game. And people can argue about all they want, but just like objectively looking at the facts, it's the truth of it. I will drink egg. Yes, my brother and I are the same way, Court. I'll drink eggnog till I'm ill. You can actually get drunk off the frosting itself. Wait, what is that? Eggnog is top tier. I've made eggnog cupcakes with spiced rum buttercream frosting. Oh, I see. Warm bread is amazing. I have to pay my twins a tax of fresh slices every time I make it. That checks out. That checks out. Also, Castle, here's a funny story. Erin, Una, and Milo are trying to get me on a normal sleep schedule. I'm convinced at this point that become a tavern mission because Ree called me at 10:30 this morning and woke me up. It is their mission to make me sleep better that I'm not aware of. Who knows? Could be any which way. The eggnog recipe is not real sweet. Okay, so I know what to serve Una if she were to visit. Hubby makes homemade bread and bagels. Oh, the lady is a sucker for bagels. I like pepperoni, bacon, and jalapenos upon my pizza. That actually sounds like a pretty good pizza. Like pepperoni, bacon, cheese, jalapeno. That's pretty good. Una will love it when you guys visit. Rabbits is in the middle of... And the middle bear cub bake a lot. She will love that. I made bread today and it's already gone. Yeah, I just recently realized that our new, because we have a very tiny kitchen, but I got us a microwave oven that is bigger and has like a wider mouth on it than the one we used to have. And I just realized like a month ago that I can bake in it. So I've started testing to see how I can bake confectionaries in there for the lady. And we started with banana bread, but I'm going to work on a couple of other... I'm going to see if I can make like a blueberry crumble in it, because she said she wanted that. And I'm also going to try a couple of green tea... Or not green tea, Earl Grey pastries, because she loves those as well. We're supposed to make Asiago cheese bagels this weekend. Ooh, the lady loves Asiago cheese as well. Whenever I make bread, I grind the wheat and make the bread intentionally very dense. It's like crack. I have a barbecue sauce that uses pineapple and orange juice as a base. It makes chicken delicious. Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds delicious. And I've always said that if you are going to use pineapple works best as a marinade, because it breaks down the protein in the meat and it makes it more tender. It's good for tenderizing things. I love a good scone. On a visit to Ireland involved many breakfast scones and homemade jam. I mean, yeah, there's a staple of the traditional Irish breakfast is a whole lot of bread and jam. Joseph, hi, my friend. Welcome. It's good to see you. I got a big air fryer that looks like a toaster oven. Yeah, it's a marvel. It is a marvel. Earl Grey pastries, share a recipe. Yes, I'll have to go through them because these are. I don't have any Earl Grey recipes of my own, so I'm taking some of the ones that the lady showed me and I'm making my own recipes out of them. So we'll see what happens. Bagels are surprisingly easy to make. I made them the other day and have been super proud of myself since I got to add seasonings now. Yeah, bagels are not hard to make, but it is a little bit of like a timely process. Takes time. Not difficult, but it takes time. I eat raw. I eat pineapple raw. I know, Matty. You have a lot of self-abuse that you're dealing with. I understand. We're all trying to build up our self-respect. It just takes a little bit longer than before. Pineapple is the fruit that digests you back. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Pretzels are easy to make too. Yes. Yeah. Pretzels are easy. Again, like they're easy to make, but it takes time. Takes time. Chocolate chip pumpkin bread is my favorite. I don't particularly care for pumpkin pastries, and neither does the lady. But I'll probably, if you have a good recipe, Val, send it to me. I'll give it a try. Is there any Scots lore on past lives? Celts don't really subscribe to past lives, in as much as they subscribe to a lineage of spirit. A lot of Celts believe that they inherit a spiritual inheritance, if you will. Much less so that, like, reincarnation is a very like Eastern idea. You get incarnations in Celtic and Norse lore, but you don't get like reincarnations. You don't get folks who get reincarnated. You get somebody who like inherits the spirit or inherits the power of a being. Like Cocolin was said to have inherited the spirit and power of Lu, right? Yeah, similar to what you would get from Avatar. It's like Aang is his own person, but he inherited the power of the Avatar. That's much closer to how Northerners and the Celts looked at life. Like you could inherit the spiritual legacy of someone, but there was never really any reincarnation myths or traditions in Celtic or Northern lore, at least not to the best of my knowledge. That's my favorite manga. Don't get me started on Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'll go off on Avatar: The Last Airbender forever. Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the best written stories in television of our time. Just period. I inherited the power of college debt. Feel my power. Yeah, a lot of people from our generation did that. I've eaten bacon raw before, mostly cooked. I'm crazy. Yeah, don't do that. Cooking ham in pineapple in orange juice is real comedy. Yes, and again, like I don't reject pineapple as an ingredient. I just reject pineapple as an ingredient in everything. It's very selective. There is a belief, Joseph, in some Celtic mystical circles that you can see, if you are a sensitive individual, that what are called harmonic signatures can enter the mind of people who have a similar wavelength to their soul. And this is a scientific explanation, but not necessarily a spiritual one. And that you will have dreams that align with whatever the energy around you is. And a lot of people put that as being like psychic or something like that. That's not how I would describe it, but that's how some folk would describe it. JK, I'm free. I was fortunate I managed to make it through university without... Is Scotty and RTO Celtic? Scotty is Northern. Scotty is Scandinavian. What do you think of the live-action TV series on Netflix, Avatar: The Last Airbender? So, two things are true at once in this instance. What about candied bacon or candied jam? Or bacon jam? Candied bacon, yes. Bacon jam, no. Bacon jam is weird to me. Like I don't like the fatty texture of bacon jam. The flavor's fine, but the texture is terrible. I don't care for that. I just went into the military for 3.5 years. No debt for me, thanks. I almost went into the military, and then my father fell ill, and I had to stay home and take care of him and my mother. Which is, it's actually fortunate that I didn't end up, because I never would have met the lady if I had ended up going into the military. My opinion on the Netflix series for Avatar The Last Airbender. Bacon jam tastes fine, but yeah, the texture, it tastes like boogery fat to me. I think that the Avatar The Last Airbender live action series is one of the best live action series that's ever been done, as far as like the visual quality of it and just like what they managed to achieve. The best one that has ever been done is by and large the One Piece live action. Like adaptation uh from like an anime or an animation into a movie or a television show. I would say Avatar: The Last Airbender is the second best that's ever been done, and One Piece is the best one that's ever been done. However, the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender completely neutered the story, in my opinion. So Bone Marrow is out. No, I don't mind Bone Marrow. Again, like there are use cases for each one of these things. One of the biggest issues with the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action is that they took away a lot of the character arcs. Like they changed vastly the characters in the story and took away their emotional arcs. So one of the big emotional arcs that Aang goes through is that he is hesitant, he's scared, he doesn't want the responsibility. But from Jump Street in the live action, he's wanting to be responsible. He's wanting to pick up he's wanting to pick up the mantle and be responsible and take responsibility. So it sort of eliminates the entire character arc of Aang in the first two seasons. You know, he doesn't really have the same fears and reservations. He's the Avatar, and he's gonna do Avatar things. Dan wants to know how you feel about the Avatar animated series. Dan said on One Piece of what needs watching now, and it's pretty good. He's never seen the anime though. The anime is a drag. Like the anime, it drags a lot. I love One Piece. One Piece is one of my world's favorite stories. There's so much filler and like repeating in One Piece that it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. I haven't watched it all. I've read the manga. I had to give up on the anime. The anime is a slog to watch. Just like the core of the story is good, and if they could eliminate a lot of like the fluff that goes into it, it would be good. But there's a lot of fluff. Now, Pint Goblet, I don't necessarily like the One Piece live action, but what I'm saying is it's the best live action anime adaptation we've ever had. I don't particularly enjoy it, but it's the best one that's ever been done. It's the same thing that I say about Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't like all of the choices that were done with the Lord of the Rings films, but they are the best adaptations we've ever gotten of Lord of the Rings. I'll watch the anime again when I get a solid skip list. Wait, because Oda is making the One Piece, which the One Piece is the story boiled down to what he originally wanted it to be, and refined how he wanted it to be. So wait for the One Piece to come out, and it is the truer version of the story as Oda would have liked it to play if it wasn't a serialized story. Bleach is my personal favorite. They wrap up the story and don't butcher it into fan service. I've only watched the first season of Bleach, so I don't have much of an opinion on it. I like the first season, but I haven't watched all the way through. I've watched all of One Piece, but the newest season. Our son has watched all the way through it too, and he wants me to finish it, but I gave up in Dressrosa. It was just too much of like repeating the same thing over and over again, and the fact that you only get like 3 or 4 minutes of like new episode every episode because it's serialized, it just bothered me so much. I couldn't do it. I do like Bleach. I've never gotten past the first or second season. I've read the manga all the way up to where they go into where Aizen is, or whatever the guy's name is. It's been so long since I've read it. Well, and then that was the other thing, is like they took out God, my brain's not working. They took out Toph's character arc in the live action. They took out Prince Zuko's character arc and got rid of like a lot of his aggression, which was like his whole character was that he was angry and aggressive, and they just sort of like neutered that a little bit. And then they got rid of Katara's character arc, and yeah, the Hollow Realm. Hueco Mundo, is that what it's called? Hueco Mundo, something like that. There is a trailer of the new animation and a shorter version of for One Piece, and it looks so good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, yeah, and obviously Netflix does silly things because their showrunners are not particularly experienced. So like they have Toph right on the ground, but she can't see. So it's a silly thing to do. Like it's a silly thing to have had her do because it doesn't make any sense, right? They do a lot of ridiculous things in their series. And then probably the most egregious character change that they made was to what's Katara's brother's name? My brain's not working. Sokka, yes. Sokka's biggest character arc is in him learning to respect the girls in his life. Sokka was in a village where most of the men went off to war, and he had to become the man of the village. He had to be responsible for protecting all of the women and children of his village at a very young age. And because of this, and being a non-bender while his sister was a bender, he had a massive amount of insecurity about her being better than him, her being stronger than him. And through his growth, and through his being like, oh, well, you're just a girl, you can, you know, whatever. His story with getting up to Suki was a major part of his character growth and charm, and they just cut it all out. And again, like, a part of this is because Netflix, they don't want to have any of the edgy jokes from the original series in there that are seen as uncouth today. But they didn't even try to preserve the character arcs, and that was what bothered me. Now again, I want to say, the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action is one of the best live actions that we've ever got. It has its problems, but it's one of the best live actions we've ever gotten. Same thing with the One Piece live action. I don't necessarily like them, because I'm a snob, and I'll admit that, but they are the best ones that we've ever got. So, they are worth watching, if you want to see, like, that world kind of come to life in live action. And the Avatar live action is far better than the M. Night Shyamalan film, of which we do not speak about. Haven't seen season 2 of the live action yet. Been trying to get the kids to watch the original with me. The movie looks so good, but the voice acting has me concerned. Nick, are we talking about... We're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender still, yes? A snob, you, I can't say. I don't know if I would even say that I have particularly high standards. I just have expectations of, like, if a show costs $1 billion, right? Dex Labs, hello, welcome in. If a show costs $1 billion, there's no reason why that show can't cast faithful characters and write faithful scripts. Like, it's not difficult to preserve a character arc, even if you have to change some things for the adaptation for it to make sense. It is not a difficult thing to preserve those things in adaptation. A lot of these things are not changed because... They're changed because the writer and the showrunner wanted to change them. Not because they needed to be changed, but because they wanted them to be changed. I should get to reading, because you guys have got me on a roll here. I started the One Piece live action and was not into it. Yeah, if you're a fan of the anime, you're probably not going to be a huge fan of the live action because they change a lot. They preserve a good portion of the overall arc, but they also compress it a lot. It's very compressed. Whereas the anime is too drawn out, the live action is very compressed. So, there's that. What's your opinion of the Legend of Korra? Okay. I won't go too far into this because I've beat this horse to death. I think Legend of Korra was a fascinating idea, and I think that they had a lot of things going for them, but because the writer of the show's goal was to have Korra exceed Aang rather than just tell a good story, you ended up with this show that was constantly breaking the rules of its own universe. Thank you, Frost. I'll probably have to. The show broke the rules of its own universe over and over again, and was constantly making concessions to excuse the way that they wrote Korra, because she's very arrogant. She's very full of herself. She's very self-important and self-righteous. And rather than making her learn lessons like Aang got humbled constantly throughout Avatar: The Last Airbender. Constantly. Korra's version of being humbled in the series is she'll lose something, but then get something back that's 10 times more powerful. Like, her biggest problem, like the big thing that hit me from the get-go is that she's a waterbender. And her natural opposite should be fire. All right, I'll give it a look after I'm done with story time. Her natural opposite should have been fire, because that's what we saw with Aang, and that's what we've established, that the hardest element to master is whatever your polar opposite is. But because the goal was to pit her against Aang and make her be better than Aang, she had to struggle with air. So she mastered fire when she was 4 years old. She was a master of these things, which again was ridiculous in and of itself. The powers in the Bender universe, they're not superpowers. It's not magic, right? It's not like you can just wake up one day and suddenly you're an airbender. It is one, it's related to bloodline, and then two, spiritual awareness and richness, and then three, martial arts. It is related to martial arts. So having a 4 or 5 year old master 3 kinds of martial arts is ridiculous. It is an insane thing to claim. When it was already, like, they were already making an insane claim with Aang of him mastering airbending at 10, 11 years old. Like, that already was insane. Having it happen with 3 elements at 4 or 5 years old is wild. So that already undermined a lot of the things. Legend of Korra, Castle, military flashbacks, yeah. But then beyond that, they had her struggle with air, and then rather having her learn her lesson about needing to calm herself, needing to be humble, she doesn't learn to master air through the power of like learning from her teacher. Rather, she gets really angry and then she punches and suddenly she mastered air. Like, it's like the whole story made all of these concessions to excuse the way they wrote the main character. And just so we're clear, it doesn't matter that Korra was a girl. That's not the issue. If she was a male character, it would have been the same problem. If she was a male character, it would have been the same problem because it would have been the same poor writing. Yeah, well, and they made it like that spiritual thing with Korra was going to be an issue, but rather than ever addressing it directly, she gets to sacrifice the entire line of avatars so that she can be let off scot-free for her inability to evolve spiritually. It's just a wild. The way they wrote it is wild. The way they wrote it was wild, and it had a lot of potential. I was excited for it. But by the end, I was irritated by most of the characters, and some of the best written characters were like the anti-heroes and pseudo-villains of the story. It's just, yeah. Aang was a prodigy with airbending and had to bust his ass to learn the other elements and still wasn't on the level of masters in the other elements. Korra just Deus Ex Machina constantly. Yes. Yeah. That's really what it is. Like, if you have to make excuses for your character to be the way they are, that's not good writing. It's the same problem that a lot of people had with Rey Skywalker. And again, a lot of people will say, well, oh, people just didn't like her because she was a girl. No. If she had been Luke Skywalker's son, I would have had the same problems. Because she's this girl from the middle of nowhere who she's a scavenger, and we never see her play on her strengths as a scavenger. That never gets brought up again throughout the entire series. But she'll pick up a lightsaber and she can go toe to toe with all of these military trained stormtroopers and blast troopers, and then also go toe to toe with the son and nephew of two of the greatest force users of their time. Just, yeah. They wrote too many social matters and geopolitical aspects to be able to focus on the story, really. Yeah, and this is why I always say, like, you can have politics in your story, you can have social issues in your story, but what if you're going to bring political and social issues from outside your story into your story, it's going to be a bad story. Because that's going to take precedence. Is representing those things is going to take precedence. And then, if you try and blend those things with the internal politics, it's going to come off as insincere. It's not going to come off as sincere storytelling. And if you focus everything in your story on like social and political issues, it's really hard to write good characters because the characters can't exist inside of a zeitgeist that is made up of ideas rather than people. If that makes sense. Like, you have to focus on character arcs in stories, especially books. Because if you don't, then the stories feel flat and they feel fake and they feel fabricated in a way that is really difficult to overcome through just good prose. I used to cosplay Korra and say I came from the corrected timeline where she stayed with Bolin. That's funny, Neko. That's funny. I have a character named Cordelia and Burika Grimtail. Would I be able to pass her off as a dramatic Celtic character? Just curious, since her family is named after Brothers Grimm fairy tale, hence Grimtail. Just making sure it sounds okay before plugging it in. It can be. I wouldn't do Grimtail. I would use a dramatic suffix there. I would use a dramatic end to the word so that it's not so on the nose. Grimtail is fine, I guess, but if you want it to feel more natural to a naming scheme, I would give it a Germanic suffix. Percentage of pages in Eragon. Again, I know. We'll get into it. Yeah, Rey, I didn't understand how she got so good so quick. Because the script needed her to. Like, they had too many things going on in those Star Wars films. And a lot of the things were things that didn't even matter. Like, in the one film, they had... I can't even remember the girl's name, but the girl and Finn went off on this whole adventure to try and find a thing. And then none of that was relevant to the movie. Like, it all meant nothing at the end. Like, they didn't get anything out of it. It didn't advance the plot. It didn't cause any problem. Like, it did nothing for the plot. And they wasted 45 minutes of our time on that particular plot. Yeah, Rose, there you go. I'm getting fat on waffles tonight. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, you guys ask me these questions, and you guys know how much I love to talk about these things. Rey was written as a Star Wars Korra, and Kylo was written as Sith Zuko. Yeah, that's fair. I think Kylo was written really well in the first film, and then progressively got worse throughout the films. He was one of the best parts of the first film, and then just got progressively worse as time went on because his motivations were wildly unclear, and he became so wishy-washy. And it was insane. He had absolutely no resolve in any direction throughout the whole of that series. And that was a big problem, is that when you write characters that have like these flimsy, paper-thin motivations, I think The Force Awakens would have been better as Finn and Poe bromance. Yeah, well, which they set up. Like, they set up for Finn and Poe to have like this bromance and be like a buddy cop sort of thing, and that would have been great. Like, that would have been an echo sort of like the Chewie and Han Solo thing, but they just didn't do it. They just didn't do it. Waffle Knight argument comes to the forefront once again. Yes, yeah. You're right, Frost. You're right. Tilly saw Luke. Right, yeah. So could the incarnations match something like the Gnostics thought of remembering lives? To a degree, I'm always hesitant to reference back to Gnostics because they're more like broad folk beliefs rather than anything that was rooted in specific experience. So I don't know. I get in arguments with people all the time about the Gnostics. So I simply think that the original stories are harder to mass produce, so investors bought IPs and did not keep the writers, which is true. And you see that happening in most of Hollywood, right? Like, they just put out the Moana live action series, the live action movie, and if you compare it side by side, first of all, it did nothing new. It's almost blow for blow the animated series into live action, and I'm not complaining about that. It's the animated film into live action, but one of the big things is that it changed nothing. And because of that, it feels kind of soulless, and it is one of the worst opening weekends for a live action that Disney's ever done. Saw a thing, Kylo is a Sith Lord. Grogu, you're an emo with a glow stick. That's funny, man. The waffles are why I've been here for 8 years. I guess that's fair. I guess it's fair quote. Dwayne Johnson straight up stole water's hair. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, no, so one of the issues is that this narrative has gone on through Hollywood that you can't risk new stories because nobody's going to want to go see them. But it's just simply not true. Like, Markiplier, who is a YouTuber, put together a horror film on his own, spent $3 million of his own money to put together a horror film based on a vague back-end video game called Iron Lung. And he did this Iron Lung movie, and it did incredible. It made like $15-16 million. And people loved it. Fans of the game loved it. People who had never heard of the game, they were a little bit confused, but for the most part, the reviews were great. Project Hail Mary was based on a book that was a popular book, but virtually no one had heard of it. And it did incredible. People loved it. So this idea that new stories can't succeed is not founded in reality. The issue is that these Hollywood studios have gotten into this habit of making $300-500 million movies that they don't know how to go back and just make a $4 or $5 million movie. You know, make a $4 or $5 million movie that makes them, $10-15 million in profit, and do a bunch of smaller projects. There has not been a single Star Wars IP that has spent less than $100 million in the last 15 years. I don't like horror movies either, but I can still acknowledge when something's well made, is really what I'm getting at. Kristalla, hello, good to see you. I would kill for a new movie. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, these studios have gotten into habits, and they blame it on the market, but it's not the market's fault. Well, with Star Wars, they did not even really need good writers with the. Right, they could have just faithfully adapted books from Star Wars and they would have had a cash cow for decades. But they didn't do that. They bring in people, again, this is another part of the problem. They bring in people who are not even fans of the IPs, like the people who they have writing Rings of Power at Amazon. Most of the showrunners and writers they're not even fans of Tolkien. Most of the people who are writing the new Star Wars things, the vast majority of them, especially the actors, have never seen the characters. Look at the difference between Henry Cavill's performance as Superman and as The Witcher, and then look at the performance of, I don't know, anybody in any of the Star Wars series that have come out. The vast majority of them, like even Pedro Pascal's performance as the Mandalorian, which everybody loves the Mandalorian. I thought the first 2 seasons were good. They killed it for me with undoing everything that had been done in the first 2 seasons. But you look at the way that Pedro Pascal, who does not like Star Wars, like he's not been a fan of Star Wars forever. He's aware of Star Wars, but he's not a huge Star Wars fan. You look at the way that he acts as the Mandalorian versus the way that Cavill acts as the Witcher, as Geralt of Rivia. It's completely different. The experience is completely different. And it's like they tried to make it so that Cavill was in, so that Geralt was in The Witcher was less. And then people were upset. They're like, why are you focusing on all these people who are not The Witcher in The Witcher series? Doctor Who was the same problem since the end of the Capaldi era. Yeah, you have all these people who've never heard, like, you had the guy who wore the skirt, I don't remember his name, but he had never heard of Doctor Who before he played Doctor Who. And it was the same thing with Jodie, whatever her name was, who played the first female Doctor. She was fine, and she did all right, but her character seemed like a revamp of David Tennant's character. Yes, Cutie Gatwa, there you go. They just, like, they don't feel like the Doctor. They don't feel like Doctor Who. They're fine actors. There's nothing wrong with them as actors. But they don't have any love or passion for the thing. They have a passion for their paycheck, which is fine. Like, you're allowed to work for a paycheck, but you're not going to get as good a product when the people don't give a damn about what they're making. And Matt Smith is one of the best Doctors. I hated Matt Smith when he first started because I loved oh gosh, I can't even remember his name now. My brain is not functioning tonight. David Tennant, and who came before David Tennant? More like a Dr. What, right? Well, and again, Gatwa's performance was fine, but it just didn't come off as a doctor in Doctor Who. Eccleston, yes, thank you, Matty. Christopher Eccleston is my favorite Doctor. He's not the best. I like him the best because he was who I started with. But Eccleston loved the role. He hated working for the guy who was the showrunner. He hated him, and he'll never work for the BBC or that guy ever again because he hated him so much. But David Tennant loved the character. He loved the series. And Matt Smith was a huge fan of Doctor Who before he started. These guys, they were invested in the role. They were invested in the universe. But Cutie Gatwa, his performance was fine, but he just didn't come off as a doctor because he didn't care about the world. He didn't care about the role. And it was the same thing with Jodie, whatever her name was. Yes, thank you, Bert. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Destiny. You have to care about the thing you're making for it to be good. And a lot of these actors and showrunners, they just don't. They're doing it for a paycheck. They're doing it to leave their mark on a famous IP, but that's not going to create a good story. You have to have people who care about the story to make a good story. That's like the base, bare minimum that you need. So when you have these people who don't care about these things making them, of course they're going to be bad. And it has nothing to do really with the actors or even with the writers because they're just doing it because it's their job. And some of them say nasty shit, like the showrunners for The Witcher say all kinds of nasty shit about, they said nasty things about the writer, they said nasty things about the game, they said nasty things about the source material, and it's whatever, they don't have to like it, but that's the point, is that they're passionate about their project, but they hate the source material, so obviously what they make is going to turn out terrible. I did not watch Doctor Who. I really like Blackadder and Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf was good. I don't think I've ever watched Blackadder. Much like the director of the 1998 Godzilla, he didn't like or know anything about Godzilla. I love Matt Smith since he was my first, but Gatwa's Doctor felt slightly off. A fun fact: every time the Ronnie appeared, in the show has gone on hiatus. Guess who came in Gatwa's run? Matt Smith was my favorite after Tennant. Never finished Capaldi's run, so in my mind, it just ended on a high note. Too scared to witness the butchering to come. Yeah, and that's fair. And I think that generally, that's like if you like The Witcher, watch the first 2 seasons. Don't watch anything after that. If you like Doctor Who, watch up to the end of Matt Smith. A lot of people really like Capaldi. I think Capaldi did fine. Yeah, and that was the other thing, is that Jodie Whittaker studied David Tennant's character, and she pretty much did like almost a perfect mirror of Tennant's character. But again, it's an imitation; it's not an original character. So clearly, it wasn't going to be as good as Tennant's. And again, I watched the Christmas special with her. I didn't watch her season, but I watched the Christmas special, and she did a great job. She did a wonderful performance, but it didn't come off as genuine as what we got from Smith and Eccleston and from and Tennant. It just wasn't the same. Too late for the warning on The Witcher. Yeah, I know a lot of as much as I feel bad for the Hemsworth brother, it's just, you have to. He had to have realized he was going into a broken program, because Liam Hemsworth is fine. Like, he's a fine actor. I don't think any of the Hemsworth brothers are particularly good actors, but they're fine actors. I will admit I don't mind the Timeless Child story, but I feel it was better off as a different Time Lord and not the Doctor. Yeah, everything after Smith, they started trying to like rewrite the universe of Doctor Who, which was a weird decision. Like, you have like 80 years of television behind you, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna change all of the rules in this television series that's been on the air for 80 years. It's such a strange decision. The main actor of Blackadder, most known as Mr. Bean, said Rowan Atkinson is a wonderful actor. Mr. Bean was like a funny, like a childhood thing, but Rowan Atkinson is a great actor. I love pretty much everything he's been in. Johnny English is a hilarious film. Once Disney got involved, it crashed and wasn't good at all. Yeah, they did this weird thing with like Fishmen in like a special, and I watched some of like the summaries of it, and it was ridiculous. It was nonsensical. It made no sense at all. The writing was some of the most spastic writing I've ever seen. Insane. Disney tries to absorb it and do their own thing. Yeah, which is what Disney does. Disney has kind of become this amalgamous blob of nothing, and they just suck things in so that those things also become nothing. The Timeless Child made sense, but only as we might have accidentally made a Time Lord who would infinitely regenerate. Yeah, but again, like, that comes back to like being a retcon on the whole series. It's like Time Lords can only regenerate 13 times, and they'd already made like an exception for the Doctor because of like who he was and what happened. And then they're like, oh, now we're gonna make infinite suggestions because someone at Polinian asked him to say waffles in the ancient language. all right, let me see how much time we have, because I think we're gonna need to run ads again. Stop it. Yeah, we need to run ads real quick. So, all right, we'll run ads. I will waffle until the ads are done, and then once the ads finish, we'll start back up with Storytime. They had solar babies like Disney has no clue. Yeah. God forbid they ever get WB or DreamWorks. It would be dreadful. Disney is Rattigan pretending to be Mickey Mouse, threatening everyone with a cat if we say otherwise. Okay, here we go. 3 minutes of ads for anyone who doesn't have Turbo or a sub over on Twitch. and then we'll be back and we'll start with Eragon, and I'll get as far through as I can in the next hour. I apologize for the long waffles tonight. You guys got me on a topic you know I love, so. The biggest thing that can be squashed right now is shows not doing what you wanted isn't a valid critique. Yeah. Well, and there are a lot of shows. See, I sit in a middle ground. I think you kind of have to listen to fans because the fans are who pay your paycheck. But at the same time, most people who watch shows, they're not particularly well versed in like what makes a good story. They have expectations, they have desires, but you can't kowtow to everything that that everybody wants. I completely didn't even see this that you bought around for the tavern. Mental Dragon buys around for the tavern. Everybody raise a glass. I'll have to bow out. I have a CDL driver's test and what. Well, good luck, Frost. Rest well, and I hope that you're wildly successful on your test in the morning, brother. Rest well, and let us know how it goes. I'm curious, what Norse god is unfairly represented in media? In one of my Norse-inspired side stories, I have Vidar, who is hardly represented in media. Most of the Norse gods are not represented in media. But none of them are represented well. I'd say probably the one that got the closest is American Gods in the way that they represent Odin. But weirdly, the best depiction I've seen of Thor was in an anime called Record of Ragnarok. And he's only just barely in there for a little bit. He's not even in there for that much time. We got to get you on the Dresden Files. A lot of folk have been trying to get me to read the Dresden Files. I have so little time to read on my own. It has to pretty much be during story time. Baldur is poorly represented. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Great show. It's on Netflix. Good night, Val. If you're off to bed, rest well. We're still gonna be reading. So if you thought I was leaving, I'm not. I apologize. But if you're off to bed, rest well, and we will see you on Thursday. Baldur only has one representation in media, and that's in God of War, and that's a terrible representation of Baldur. Thor is always depicted as fat and stupid, which is not how he's depicted in the myth. Odin is almost always there are no real good depictions of Norse gods in media. I can't think of the two that I gave are the best ones that I can think of. And outside of that, there just aren't many good ones. Our nicknames for the doctors in our house: Grandpa Bearcoat, Bessie's Driver, Scarf, Celery Stick, Clown Coat, question mark, Umbrella, the American, War Doctor, Big Ears, Converse, He Who Will Not Be Named, The Old Scotsman, That Woman, Converse 2.0, and The Kilt. That's very funny. That's very funny. Yeah, Frost was heading off to bed, Val. We were telling Frost good night. Disney has a lot of made up bad executive decisions. Let's start with Nimona. Yeah, I really don't understand who at Disney is making these decisions, because they have a lot of really good potential. Yeah, Hades is another one that's never been really properly represented. Hades is almost always a bad guy. And like this sort of like emo kid, when that's not really how he's represented in the myth. Probably the most accurately represented deital figure of any figure ever would be Zeus. Zeus is probably the only one that's ever accurately depicted. Most of the other ones are not depicted well in anything. I tried to make Thor closer to the mythical Thor. So Thor is described as having a temper. He's a bit of a hothead, but he's also somewhat of a tactical and decisive genius. Like he knows that Loki is the one who cut his wife's hair. He tracks him down. and then threatens to break every bone in his body if he doesn't get his wife's hair back. Or find a way to make it better. Hermes and Elton John. Yeah, and that's the big thing, is that Hades is not evil in Greek mythology, like ever. The evil figures are, so it's generational. So you have the primordial titans, the primordial titan who is the father of Kronos, Thanatos, I think is his name. And then Kronos kills Thanatos, and then Zeus kills Kronos, and then after Zeus and the gosh, what does my brain do? The Olympians take over Mount Olympus, and they become the primary figures. Then the heroes are then sort of embattled. Uranus, thank you, Matty. Then the heroes kind of become embattled against the gods in different ways. Sort of like battling with and rejecting their fates, and that's what a lot of the Greek stories are about. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get into story time, guys. We waffled for a long time this evening. And we're getting close to the end of this book. We are right there. We have that much left of this gigantic book. Does Hades actually review your life at the end? Like he sits there and hears your life stories? So not in classical Greek myth, no. In classical Greek myth, the fates judge you. Like the fates decide these things. And there are depending on like where you're getting the stories from, because you have to remember that gosh, what's his name? Ovidius changed a lot of the Greek myths. So a lot of the myths that we have today are not classical Greek myth. So like the one that people love to share is that Medusa was this woman who was very beautiful, and then she rejected Poseidon, and then Poseidon assaults her in Athena's temple, and then Athena curses her. That's not classical Greek myth. In classical Greek myth, Medusa is a monster. She is one of the Gorgons, and she has Gorgon sisters. That's it. That is the whole story. She is one of the monsters of Greek mythology. Ovid changed those things to make it more dramatic. Still sorting out the Fates and the Morrigan. So the difference between the Fates and the Morrigan is that the Fates actually decide your fate. The Morrigan is a battle. I hate using the word deity, because in the myths they're not actual like deities. They're more like ancestral spirits. And I don't say that to belittle it. It's just that they're given this deical place in the stories because there's this need to like compete on deities, and to me it kind of ruins the mythos and story. But it is what it is. The Morrigan is sort of a battle deity. The three who exist within the Morrigan, called the Morrigu. The Morrigan is not one, the Morrigan is three. It is a collective. And those three control basically the fate of those on the battlefield. More or less. Portrayal of the Greek pantheon bothers me, as I grew up in a Greek community, so the stories I was told don't matter. Yeah, if you go to Greece and you talk to locals, like my grandfather took me to Greece for a bit, and I learned Greek stories from a lot of old traditional Greek storytellers from around. And the reality is that a lot of what you get from local stories is not what would see as like canon. Also, there's not just Hades, there's also the asphodel fields and Tartarus, right? And Tartarus is more like what you would expect of hell. Hades is sort of like what Niflheim is in Norse mythology. I'd like to learn more of Coquelin. I have a whole story time on Coquelin over on YouTube, Hank. If you'd like to hear a little bit more about his story. And I've been to Greece. I mean, I didn't know there was a goddess Aphia, a local goddess. Not well. That's the other thing is that whereas a lot of folk will say, well, like Odin was the king of gods in Norse mythology. That's only true because the surviving text that we have from the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, the Prose Edda was written by Snorri Sturluson, and him and his father were sort of obsessed with Odin and with having a lineage connected to Odin. Snorri's father, Sturla, got stabbed in the eye by someone, I think it was his wife, because he was obsessed with Odin. Or that's like the summation of the story. That's not necessarily the whole story, but that's part of it. And the Prose Edda is not a religious text. The Prose Edda is not even a mythological text. The Prose Edda is a Icelandic poetry handbook that was written by Snorri Sturluson, partially as propaganda to give him, to endear himself to the royal courts of Scandinavia, and partially to prove that he was a really good poet. Some of it is preservation, but for the most part, he was showing off how good he is at Icelandic prose. And then the Poetic Edda is a collection of stories that was translated and preserved in later stories. Then did you know there's a metal song about him? Coquelin? I didn't. I know there's some music about Coquelin. Like there's a bunch of folk songs that are about him. There's a whole musical ballad called "The Blood of Coquelin." All right. I'm gonna get reading, friends. I'm gonna get reading. So let's try and at least get through one chapter. Oh no, we'll get through more than that. We'll probably get through. We'll probably get through 3 chapters tonight. I think we can do. He killed a guard dog, took its place, cheated on his wife, killed his own son, tied his own guts to a big rock so he would die on his feet. What else would you like to know? That's the summation of it. That's the summation of it. Okay. When we last left off, Eragon and Murtaugh were running from an army of... Oh, crap, what do I call them? Urgles. They were running from an army of Urgles that was searching for them in the Haderach Desert. And they had just approached these gigantic Beor mountains. So, let us get into it. A clash of wills. When morning came, Eragon's cheek was raw from chafing against Snowfire's neck, and he was sore from his fight with Murtaugh. They had alternated sleeping in their saddles throughout the night. It had allowed them to outdistance the Urgle troops, but neither of them knew if the lead could be retained. The horses were exhausted to the point of stopping, yet they still maintained a relentless pace. Whether it would be enough to escape depended on how rested the monsters were, and if Eragon and Murtaugh's horses survived. The Beor Mountains cast great shadows over the land, stealing the sun's warmth. To the north was the Haderach Desert, a thin white band as bright as noonday snow. "I must eat," said Saphira. "Days have passed since I last hunted. Hunger claws my belly." If I start now, I might be able to catch enough of those bounding deer for a few mouthfuls. Eragon smiled at her exaggeration. If you must go, but leave Arya here. I will be swift. He untied the elf from her belly and transferred her to Snowfire's saddle. Saphira soared away, disappearing into the direction of the mountains. Eragon ran beside the horses, close enough to Snowfire to keep Arya from falling, and neither he nor Murtaugh intruded on the silence. Yesterday's fight was no longer seemed as important because of the Urgles, but the bruises remained. Saphira made her kills within the hour and notified Eragon of her success. Eragon was pleased that she would soon return. Her absence made him nervous. They stopped at a pond and let the horses drink. Eragon idly plucked a stalk of grass, twirling it while he stared at the elf. He was startled from his reverie by the steely rasp of a sword being unsheathed. He instinctively grabbed Zarak and spun around in search of the enemy. It was only Murtaugh, his long sword held ready. He pointed at the hill ahead of him, where a tall, brown-cloaked man sat on a sorrel horse, mace in hand. Behind him was a group of 20 horsemen. No one moved. Could they be the Varden? Asked Murtaugh. Eragon surreptitiously strung his bow. According to Arya, they're still scores of leagues away. This might be one of their patrols or raiding groups. Assuming they're not bandits. Murtaugh swung onto Tornak and readied his own bow. Should we try to outrun them? Asked Eragon, draping a blanket over Arya. The horseman must have seen her, but he hoped to conceal the fact that she was an elf. It wouldn't do any good, said Murtaugh, shaking his head. Tornak and Starfire are fine war horses, but they're tired, and they aren't sprinters. Look at the horses those men have. They're meant for running. They would catch us before we'd gone half a mile. Besides, they may have something important to say. You better tell Saphira to hurry back. Eragon was already doing that. He explained the situation and then warned. Don't show yourself unless necessary. We're not in the Empire, but I still don't want anyone to know about you. Never mind that, she replied. Remember, magic can protect you where speed and luck fail. He felt her take off and raced towards them, skimming close to the ground. The band of men watched them from the hill. Eragon nervously gripped Zarak. The wire-wrapped hilt was secure under his glove. He said in a low voice, If they threaten us, I can frighten them away with magic. If that doesn't work, they're Saphira. I wonder how they'd react to a rider. So many stories have been told about their powers. It might be enough to avoid a fight. Don't count on it, said Murtaugh flatly. If there's a fight, we'll just have to kill enough of them to convince them that we're not worth the effort. His face was controlled and unemotional. The man on the sorrel horse signalled with his mace, sending his horsemen cantering towards them. The men shook javelins over their heads, whooping loudly as they neared. Battered sheaths hung from their sides, their weapons were rusty and stained. 4 of them trained arrows on Eragon and Murtaugh. The leader swirled his mace in the air, and the men responded with yells as they wildly encircled Eragon and Murtaugh. Eragon's lips twitched. He almost loosed a blast of magic in their midst, then restrained himself. We don't know what they want yet, he reminded himself, containing his growing apprehension. The moment Eragon and Murtaugh were thoroughly surrounded, the leader reined in his horse, and then crossed his arms and examined them critically. He raised his eyebrows. Well, these aren't the usual dregs we find. At least we got healthy ones this time. And we didn't even have to shoot them. Greg will be pleased, the men chuckled. At his words, a sinking sensation filled Eragon's gut. A suspicion stirred in his mind. Saphira. Now, as for the two of you, said the leader, speaking to Eragon and Murtaugh, if you'd be so good as to drop your weapons, you'll avoid being turned into living quivers by my men. The archers grinned suggestively. The men laughed again. Murtaugh's only movement was to shift his sword. Who are you? And what do you want? We're free men travelling through this land. You have no right to stop us. Oh, I have every right, said the man contemptuously. And as for my name, slaves do not address their masters in that manner, unless they want to get beaten. Eragon cursed himself. Slavers. He remembered vividly people had been seen at auction in Drasleona. Rage boiled within him, and he glared at the men around him with a new hatred and disgust. The lines deepened on the leader's face. Throw down your swords and surrender. The slavers tensed, staring at them with cold eyes as neither Eragon nor Murtaugh lowered his weapon. Eragon's palm tingled. He heard a rustle behind him, then a loud curse. Startled, he spun around. One of the slavers had pulled a blanket off of Arya, revealing her face. He gaped in astonishment, then shouted, Torkenbrand! This one's an elf! The men stirred with surprise while the leader spurred his horse over to Stowfire. He looked down at Arya and whistled. Well, how much is she worth? Someone asked. Torkenbrand was quiet for a moment, then spread his hands and said, At the very least, fortunes upon fortunes. The Empire will pay a mountain of gold for her. The slavers yelled with excitement and pounded each other on the back. A roar filled Eragon's mind as Saphira banked sharply far overhead. Attack now, he cried, but let them escape if they run. She immediately folded her wings and plummeted downward. Eragon caught Murtaugh's attention with a sharp signal. Murtaugh took the cue. He smashed his elbow into a slaver's face, knocking the man out of his saddle, and then jabbed his heels into Tornak. With a toss of his mane, the warhorse jumped forward, twirled around and reared. Murtaugh brandished his sword as Tornak plunged back down, driving his forehooves into the back of the dismounted slaver, and the man screamed. Before the slavers could gather their senses, Eragon scrambled out of the commotion, raised his hands, invoked the ancient words of language. A globule of indigo fire struck the ground in the midst of the fray, bursting into a fountain of molten drops that dissipated like sun-warmed dew. A second later, Saphira dropped from the sky and landed next to him. She parted her jaws and displayed her massive fangs and bellowed. Behold! I am Eragon, cried Eragon over the furrow. I am a rider. He raised Zarok over his head, and the red blade dazzling in the sunlight, and then pointed at the slavers. Flee, if you wish to live. The men shouted incoherently and scrambled over each other. In their haste to escape, in the confusion, Torkenbrand was struck in the temple with a javelin. He tumbled to the ground, stunned. The men ignored their fallen leader and raced away as a ragged mass, casting fearful looks at Saphira. Torkenbrand struggled to his knees. Blood ran from his temple, branching across his cheek with crimson tendrils. Murtaugh dismounted and strode over to him, sword in hand. Torkenbrand weakly raised an arm as if to ward off the blow. Murtaugh gazed at him coldly and then swung his blade at Torkenbrand's neck. No! Shouted Eragon, but it was too late. Torkenbrand's decapitated trunk crumpled to the ground in a puff of dirt. His head landed with a hard thump. Eragon rushed to Murtaugh, his jaw working furiously. Is your brain rotten? He yelled enraged. Why did you kill him? Murtaugh wiped his sword on the back of Torkenbrand's jerkin. The steel left a dark stain. I don't see why you're so upset. Upset? Exploded Eragon. I'm well past that. Did it even occur to you that we could just leave him here and continue on our way? No. Instead, you turned into an executioner and chop off his head. He was defenseless. Murtaugh seemed perplexed at Eragon's wrath. Well, we couldn't keep him around. He was dangerous, and the others ran off. Without a horse, he wouldn't have made it far. I didn't want the Urgles to find him and learn about Arya. So I thought it would... But to kill him, interrupted Eragon. Saphira sniffed Torkenbrand's head curiously. She opened her mouth slightly as if to snap it up, then appeared to decide better of it and prowled to Eragon's side. I'm only trying to stay alive, stated Murtaugh. No stranger's life is more important than my own. But you can't indulge in wanton violence. Where is your empathy? Growled Eragon, pointing at the head. Empathy! Empathy! What empathy can I afford my enemies? Shall I dither about whether to defend myself because it will cause someone pain? If that had been the case, I would have died years ago. You must be willing to protect yourself and what you cherish, no matter the cost. Eragon slammed Zorok back into its sheath, shaking his head savagely. You can justify any atrocity without reasoning. Do you think I enjoy this? Murtaugh shouted. My life has been threatened from the day I was born. All my waking hours have been spent avoiding danger in one form or another. And sleep never comes easily, because I'm always worried if I'll live to see the dawn. If there were ever a time I felt secure, it must have been in my mother's womb, though I wasn't safe even there. You don't understand. If you lived with this fear, you would have learned the same lesson I did. Do not take chances. He gestured at Torkenbrand's body. He was a risk that I removed. I refuse to repent, and I won't plague myself over what is done and past. Eragon shoved his face into Murtaugh's. It was still the wrong thing to do. He lashed Arya to Saphira and then climbed onto Snowfire. Let's go. Murtaugh guided Tornak around Torkenbrand's prone form in the blood-stained dust. They rode at a rate that Eragon would have thought impossible a week ago. Leagues melted away before them as if wings were attached to their feet. They turned south between two outstretched arms of the Beor Mountains. The arms were shaped like pincers about to close the tips that days travel apart. Yet the distance seemed less because of the mountain size. It was as if they were in a valley made for giants. When they stopped for the day, Eragon and Murtaugh ate dinner in silence, refusing to look up from their food. Afterward, Eragon said tersely, I'll take the first watch. Murtaugh nodded and lay on his blankets, with his back to Eragon. Do you want to talk? Asked Saphira. Not right now, murmured Eragon. Give me some time to think. I'm confused. She withdrew from his mind with a gentle touch and a whisper. I love you, little one. Now you, he said. She curled up into a ball next to him, lending him her warmth. He sat motionless in the dark, wrestling with his disquiet. I have seen some of overly sarcastic production stuff on YouTube, Clifford. I don't get a whole lot of time to watch things, so I have to be very discerning with my time. It's because the lady and I spend so much time making stories and then researching for them that I spend basically 16 hours a day making our own things. So I don't get a whole lot of a chance to consume what other people make. But overly sarcastic productions, they do make some pretty good things from what I've seen. It's a good recommendation. All right, friends, I think we're gonna just carry straight on to the next chapter and see how far we can get. Can you borrow me for a second? You can borrow me for a minute, an hour, a day, however long you like, my love. 20 seconds. All right, friends. We're going to take a 20-second break while I attend to what the lady needs of me. And then I will be right back. So I'll put on music for you guys while I'm over there.
Fire smokes black when she walks through the door. A shadow that stretches across the stone floor. She carries the staff, she carries the sight, a piece of the morning in the heart of the night. Satan, 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 Satan.
The staff hits the wood where the kings used to stand. Fate is a needle in a trembling hand. You asked for the rune, you asked for the flame, but you're too weak to carry the weight of your name.
The thread is unweaving. The truth is bereaving. The vulva is spinning. The spirit and bone. The seeds of your ending have already been sown. She sees the high hall. She sees it in ash. The glint of the gold. The sting of the lash. She speaks to the dead. She drinks from the well. There are secrets the living are too frightened to tell. The thread is unweaving. The truth is bereaving. Vulva is spinning. The spirit and bone. The seeds of your ending have already been sown. The thread is unweaving. The truth is bereaving. The vulva is spinning. The spirit and bone. The seeds of your ending have already been sown.
The weird is full.
Alright, friends, let's dive back in. I'm glad I found the tavern again. It's been so long. It has been a while, Chris. I'm glad you could make it back in. We're in a fresh chapter in Eragon, the first book in the inheritance cycle. Flight through the valley. In the morning, Saphira took off with both Eragon and Arya. Eragon wanted to get away from Murtaugh for a time. He shivered, pulling his clothes tighter. It looked like it might snow. Saphira ascended lazily on an updraft and asked, "What are you thinking?" Eragon contemplated the Beorn Mountains, which towered above them even though Saphira flew far above the ground. That was murder yesterday. I've no other word for it. Saphira banked to the left. It was a hasty deed, and ill-considered. But Murtaugh tried to do the right thing. The men who buy and sell other humans deserve every misfortune that befalls them. If we weren't committed to helping Arya, I would hunt down every slaver and tear them apart. Yes, said Eragon miserably. But Torkenbrand was helpless. He couldn't shield himself or run. A moment more and he probably would have surrendered. Murtaugh didn't give him a chance. If Torkenbrand had at least been able to fight, it wouldn't have been so bad. Eragon, even if Torkenbrand had fought, the result would have been the same. You know as well as I do that few can equal you or Murtaugh with the blade. Torkenbrand would still have died, though you seem to think it would have been more just and honourable in a mismatched duel. I don't know what's right, admitted Eragon, distressed. There aren't answers that make sense. Sometimes, said Saphira gently, there are no answers. Learn what you can about Murtaugh from this, then forgive him. And if you can't forgive, at least forget. For he meant you no harm. However rash the act was, your head is still attached, yes. Frowning, Eragon shifted in the saddle. He shook himself like a horse trying to rid himself of a fly, and checked Murtaugh's position over Saphira's shoulder. A patch of colour farther back along their route caught his attention. Camped by a stream they had crossed late yesterday were Ergos. Eragon's heartbeat quickened. How could the Urgles be on foot, yet still gain on them? Saphira saw the monster as well and tilted her wings, brought them close to her body and slipped into a steep dive. Splitting the air. I don't think they spotted us, she said. Eragon hoped not. He squinted against the blast of air as she increased the angle of their dive. The chieftain must be driving them at a breakneck pace, he said. Yes, maybe they'll all die from exhaustion. When they landed, Murtaugh asked curtly, What now? Urgles are overtaking us, said Eragon. He pointed back towards the column's camp. How far do we still have to go? Asked Murtaugh, putting his hands against the sky and measuring the hours until sunset. Normally, I would guess another 5 days. At the speed we've been travelling, only 3. But unless we get there tomorrow, the Urgles will probably catch us, and Arya will certainly die. She might last another day. We can't count on it, objected Eragon. The only way we can get to the Varden in time is if we don't stop for anything, least of all sleep. That's our only chance. Murtaugh laughed bitterly. How can you expect to do that? We've already gone days without adequate sleep, unless riders are made from different stuff than us mortals. You're as tired as I am. We've covered a staggering distance, and the horses, in case you haven't noticed, are ready to drop. Another day of this might kill us all. Eragon shrugged. So be it. We don't have a choice. Murtaugh gazed at the mountains. I could leave and let you fly ahead with Saphira. That would force the Urgles to divide the troops and would give you a better chance of reaching the Varden. It would be suicide, said Eragon, crossing his arms. Somehow those Urgles are faster on foot than we are on horseback. They would run you down like a deer. The only way to evade them is to find sanctuary with the Varden. Despite his words, he was unsure if he wanted Murtaugh to stay. I like him, Eragon confessed to himself. But I'm no longer certain if that's a good thing. I'll escape later, said Murtaugh abruptly. When we get to the Varden, I can disappear down the side valley, find my way to Serda, where I can hide without attracting too much attention. So you're staying? Sleep or no sleep, I'll see you to the Varden, promised Murtaugh. With newfound determination, they struggled to distance themselves from the Urgles, yet their pursuers continued to creep nearer and nearer. At nightfall, the monsters were a third closer than they had been that morning. As fatigue eroded his and Murtaugh's strength, They slept in turns on the horses, while whoever was awake led the animals in the right direction. Eragon relied heavily on Arya's memories to guide him. Because of the alien nature of her mind, he sometimes made mistakes as to the route, costing them precious time. They gradually angled towards the foothills of the eastern arm of the mountains, looking for the valley that would lead them to the Varden. Midnight arrived and passed without any sign of it. When the sun returned, they were pleased to see that the Urgles were far behind. "This is the last day," said Eragon, yawning widely. "If we're not reasonably close to the Varden by noon, I'm going to fly ahead with Arya. You'll be free to go wherever you want then, but you'll have to take Snowfire with you. I won't be able to come back for him." "That might not be necessary. We could still get there in time," said Murtaugh, rubbing the pommel of his sword. Eragon shrugged. "We could." He went to Arya and put a hand on her forehead. It was damp and dangerously hot. Her eyes wandered uneasily beneath her eyelids, as if she suffered a nightmare. Eragon pressed a damp rag to her brow, wishing he could do more. Late in the morning, after they circumnavigated an especially broad mountain, Eragon saw a narrow valley tucked against its far side. The valley was so restricted it could easily be overlooked. The Beartooth River, which Arya had mentioned, flowed out of it and looped carelessly across the land. He smiled with relief. That was where they needed to go. Looking back, Eragon was alarmed to see that the distance between them and the Urgles had shrunk to a little more than a league. He pointed out the valley to Murtaugh. "If we can slip into there without being seen, it might confuse them." Murtaugh looked skeptical. "It's worth a try, but they've followed us easily so far." As they approached the valley, they passed under the knotted branches of the Beor Mountains forest. The trees were tall, with creviced bark that was almost black, dull needles of the same color and knobby roots that rose from the soil like bare knees. Cones littered the ground, each the size of the horse's head. Sable squirrels chattered from the treetops, and eyes gleamed from holes in the trunks. Green beards of tangled wolfbane hung from the gnarled branches. The forest gave Eragon an uneasy feeling. The hair on the back of his neck prickled. There was something hostile in the air, as if the trees resented their intrusion. "They are very old," said Saphira, touching the trunk with her nose. "Yes," said Eragon, "but not friendly." The forest grew denser the farther they travelled. The lack of space forced Saphira to take off with Arya. Without a clear trail to follow, though, the tough underbrush slowed Eragon and Murtaugh. The Beartooth River wound next to them, filling the air with the sound of gurgling water. A nearby peak obscured the sun, casting them into a premature dusk. At the valley's mouth, Eragon realized that although it looked like a slim gash between the peaks, the valley was really as wide as many of the spine's vales. It was only the enormous size of the ridge and the shadowy mountains that made it appear so confined. Waterfalls dotted its sheer sides. The sky was reduced to a thin strip winding overhead, mostly hidden by the grey clouds. From the dank ground rose a clinging fog that chilled the air until their breath was visible. Wild strawberries crawled among the carpet of mosses and ferns, fighting for the meager sunlight. Sprouts on piles of rotting wood were red and yellow toadstools. All was hushed and quiet, sounds dampened by the heavy air. Saphira landed by them in a nearby glade, the rush of her wings strangely muted. She took in the view with a swing of her head. "I just passed a flock of birds that were black and green with red markings on their wings. I've never seen birds like that before." "Everything in these mountains seems unusual," replied Eragon. "Do you mind if I ride you a while?" I want to keep an eye on the Urgles. Of course. He turned to Murtaugh. The Varden are hidden at the end of this valley. If we hurry, we might get there before nightfall. Murtaugh grunted, hand on his hips. How am I going to get out of here? I don't see any valleys joining this one. The Urgles are going to hem us in pretty soon. I need an escape route. Don't worry about it, said Eragon impatiently. This is a long valley, and there's sure to be an exit further in. He released Arya from Saphira and lifted the elf onto Snowfire. Watch Arya. I'm going to fly with Saphira. We'll meet up ahead. He scrambled into Saphira's back and strapped himself into a saddle. Be careful, warned Murtaugh, his brow furrowed in thought. Then clucked to the horses and hurried back into the forest. As Saphira jumped into the sky, Eragon said, Do you think you could fly us up to one of those peaks? We might be able to spot our destination as well as a passage for Murtaugh. I don't want to listen to him griping through the entire valley. We can try, said Saphira. But it will get much colder. I'm dressed warmly. Hold on then. You've read The Kitten to Sleep, Castle. That's an achievement for sure if you can read A Kitten to Sleep. I'll add it to my achievements list as a storyteller. If the Dragon Knight is what won, then it's called the Dragon and the George, which I actually don't have, so I'm gonna have to buy that. I do have 2 copies of The Dragon Knight, which is the second book in the series, but I don't have the first book. Saphira suddenly swooped straight up, throwing him back in the saddle. Her wings flapped strongly, driving their weight upward. The valley shrank to a green line below them, and the Beartooth River shimmered like braided silver where the light struck it. They rose to the cloud layer, and icy moisture saturated the air. A formless grey blanket engulfed them, limiting their vision to an arm's length. Eragon hoped they would not collide with anything in the murk. He stuck out a hand, experimentally swinging it through the air. The water condensed on it and ran down his arm, soaking his sleeve. A blurry grey mass fluttered past his head, and he glimpsed a dove, its wings pumping frantically. There was a white band around its leg, and Saphira struck at the bird, tongue lashing out, jaws gaping. The dove squawked as Saphira's sharp teeth snapped together on the bird's, together a hair's breadth behind its tail feathers. Then it darted away and disappeared into the haze. Frenzied thumping of its wings faded into silence. When they breached the top of the clouds, Saphira's scales were covered with thousands of water droplets that reflected tiny rainbows and shimmered with blue in her scales. Eragon shook himself, spraying water from his clothes, and shivered. He could no longer see the ground, only hills of clouds snaking between the mountains. Good night, Chris. Rest well. It's always lovely to see you. I hope we'll see you back soon. We'll be back on Thursday. And it's a pleasure. I'm glad that you find some respite here in the tavern, my friend. Where was I? The trees on the mountains gave way to thick glaciers, blue and white under the sun. The glare from the snow forced Eragon to close his eyes. He tried to open them after a minute, but the light dazzled him. Irritated, he stared into the crook of his arm. How can you stand it? He asked Saphira. My eyes are stronger than yours, she replied. It was frigid, The water in Eragon's hair froze, giving him a shiny helmet. His shirt and pants were hard shells around his limbs. Saphira's scales became slick with the ice. Hoarfrost laced her wings. They had never flown this high before, yet the mountaintops were still miles above them. Saphira's flapping gradually slowed, and her breathing became labored. Eragon gasped and panted. There didn't seem to be enough air. Fighting back panic, he clutched Saphira's neck spikes for support. "We have to get out of here," he said. Red dots swam before his eyes. "I can't breathe." Saphira seemed not to hear him, and he repeated the message, louder this time. Again, there was no response. She can't hear me, he realized. He swayed, finding it hard to think, and then pounded on her side and shouted, "Take us down!" The effort made him lightheaded, and his vision faded into swirling darkness. He regained consciousness as they emerged from the bottom of the clouds, his head pounding. What happened?" he asked, pushing himself upright and looking around with confusion. "You blacked out," answered Saphira. He tried to run his fingers through his hair, but stopped when he felt icicles. "Yes, I know that, but why didn't you answer me?" "My brain was confused. Your words didn't make any sense. When you lost consciousness, I knew something was wrong and descended. I didn't have to sink far before I realized what had occurred." "It's a good thing you didn't pass out as well," said Eragon with nervous laugh. Saphira only swished her tail. He looked wistfully at where the mountain peaks were, now concealed by clouds. "A pity we couldn't stand on one of those summits. Well, now we know. We can only fly out of this valley the way we came in. Why did we run out of air? How can we have it down here but not up there?" "I don't know. But I'll never dare fly so close to the sun again. We should remember this experience. The knowledge may be useful if we ever have to fight another rider." "I hope that never happens," said Eragon. "Let's stay down below for now. I've had enough adventures for one day." They floated on the gentle air currents, drifting from one mountain to the next, until Eragon saw the ergo column had reached the valley's mouth. What drives them to such speed, and how can they bear to sustain it? "Now that we are closer to them," Saphira said, "I can see that these ergos are bigger than the ones we've met before. They would stand chest and shoulder over a tall man. I don't know what land they marched from, but it must be a fierce place to produce such brutes." Eragon glared at the ground below. He could not see the detail that she did. "If they keep this pace, they'll catch Murtaugh before we find the Varden." "Have hope. The forest may hamper their progress. Would it be possible to stop them with magic?" "No." "Would it be possible to stop them with magic?" Eragon shook his head. "Stop them? No. There are too many." He thought of the thin layer of mist on the valley floor, and grinned. "But I might be able to delay them a bit." He closed his eyes and selected the words he needed, stared at the mist, and then commanded, "Gath, un resa durakar." There was a disturbance below. From above, it looked as if the ground was flowing together like a great sluggish river. A leaden band of mist gathered in front of the ergos and thickened into an immediate war, dark as a thunderhead. The ergos hesitated before it, then continued forward like an unstoppable battering ram. The barrier swirled around them, concealing the lead ranks from view. The drain on Eragon's strength was sudden and massive, making his heart flutter like a dying bird. He gasped, eyes rolling, and struggled to sever the magic's hold on him, to plug the breach through which his life streamed. With a savage growl, he jerked away from the magic and broke contact. Tendrils of magic snapped through his mind like decapitated snakes, and reluctantly retreated from his consciousness, clutching at the dregs of his strength. The wall of mist dissipated, and the fog sluggishly collapsed across the ground. like a tower of mud sliding apart. The Urgles had not been hindered at all. Eragon lay limply on Saphira, panting. Only now did he remember Brom saying, "Magic is affected by distance, just like an arrow or a spear. You try to lift or move something a mile away, it'll take more energy than if you were close." "I won't forget that again," he thought grimly. "You shouldn't have forgotten in the first place," Saphira inserted pointedly. "First the dirt at Gilead, now this. Aren't you paying attention to anything Brom told you? You'll kill yourself if you keep this up." "I paid attention," he insisted, rubbing his chin. It's been a while and I haven't had an opportunity to think back on it. I've never used magic at a distance, so how could I know that it would be so difficult?" She growled. "Next thing I know, you'll be trying to bring corpses back to life. Did you forget what Brom said about that too?" "I won't," he said impatiently. Saphira dipped toward the ground, searching for Motor and the horses. Eragon would have helped her, but he barely had energy to sit up. Saphira settled in a small field with a jolt. Eragon was puzzled to see the horses stopped and Motor kneeling, examining the ground. "What's wrong?" He sounded angry, worried, and tired at the same time. I made a mistake," said Eragon truthfully. "The Urgles have entered the valley. I tried to confuse them and I forgot one of the rules of magic. That cost me a great deal." Scowling, Murtaugh jerked his thumb over his shoulder. "I just found some wolf tracks, but the footprints are as wide as both of my hands, and an inch deep. There are animals around here that would be dangerous even to you, Saphira." He turned to her. "I know you can't enter the forest, but could you circle above me and the horses? That should keep the beast away. Otherwise, there may only be enough of me left to roast on a thimble." "Humour, Myrtle," asked Eragon, a quick smile coming to his face. His muscles trembled, making it hard for him to concentrate. "Only on the gallows," Myrtle rubbed his eyes. "I can't believe that the same Urgles that have been following us this whole time. They would have to be birds to catch up with us." "Saphira said they're larger than any we've seen," remarked Eragon. Murtaugh cursed, clenching the pommel of the sword. "That explains it. Saphira, if you're right, then those are Cole, elite of the Urgles. I should have guessed that the chieftain had been put in charge of them. They don't ride horses because they can't carry the weight. Not one of them is under 8 feet tall, and they can run for days without sleep and still be ready for battle. It can take 5 men to kill one. Cole never leave their caves except for war, so they must expect a great slaughter if they're out in such force." "Can we stay ahead of them?" "Who knows," said Murtaugh. "They're strong, determined, and large in numbers. It's possible that we may have to face them. If that happens, I only hope that the Varden have a few men posted nearby who will help us. Otherwise, our skill in Saphira, we can't hold off Cole." Eragon swayed. "Could you get me some bread? I'll need to eat." Murtaugh quickly brought him part of a loaf. It was old and hard, but Eragon chewed on it gratefully. Murtaugh scanned the valley walls, worry in his eyes. Eragon knew he was searching for a way out. "There'll be one farther in." "Of course," said Murtaugh with forced optimism, then slapped his thigh. "How's Arya?" asked Eragon. Murtaugh shrugged. "Fever's worse. She's been tossing and turning. What do you expect? Her strength is failing. You should fly her to the Varden before the poison does any more damage." "I won't leave you behind," insisted Eragon, gaining strength with each bite. "Not with the Urgles so near." Murtaugh shrugged again. "As you wish. But I'm warning you. She won't live if you stay with me." "Don't say that," insisted Eragon, pushing himself upright in Saphira's saddle. "Help me save her. We can still do it. Consider it a life for a life. Atonement for Torkenbrand's death." Murtaugh's face darkened instantly. "It's not a debt owed. You. He stopped as a horn echoed through the dark forest. "I'll have more to say to you later," he said shortly, stomping to the horses. He grabbed the reins and trotted away, shooting an angry glare at Eragon. Eragon closed his eyes as Saphira took flight. He wished that he could lie on a soft bed and forget all their troubles. "Saphira," he said at last, cupping his ears to warm them. "What if we did take Arya to the Varden? Once she was safe, could we fly back to Murtaugh and help him here?" "The Varden wouldn't let you," said Saphira. "For all they know, you might be returning to inform the Urgos of their hiding place. We aren't arriving under the best conditions to gain their trust. They'll want to know why we brought an entire company of Cole to their gates." "We'll just have to tell them the truth and hope they believe us," said Eragon. "And what will we do if the Cole attack Murtaugh?" "Fight them, of course. I won't let him or Arya be captured or killed," said Eragon indignantly. There was a touch of sarcasm in her words. "How noble. Oh, we would fell many of the Urgos, you with magic and blade, whilst my weapon would be tooth and claw. But it would be futile in the end. They are too numerous. We cannot defeat them. Only be defeated." "What then?" he demanded. "I will not leave Arya and Murtaugh to their mercy." Saphira waved her tail, the tip whistling loudly. "I'm not asking you to. However, if we attack first, we may gain the advantage." "Have you gone crazy, though?" Eragon's voice trailed off as he thought about it. "They won't be able to do a thing," he concluded. "Exactly," said Saphira. "We can inflict lots of damage from a safe height." "Let's drop rocks on them," proposed Eragon. "That should scatter them." "If their skulls aren't thick enough to protect them." Saphira banked to the right, quickly descended to the Beartooth River. She grasped a mid-sized boulder with her talons, while Eragon scooped up several fist-sized rocks. Laden with stones, Saphira glided on silent wings until they were above the Urgle host. "Now!" she exclaimed, releasing the boulder. There were muffled cracks as the missiles plummeted through the forest's top, smashing branches, and seconds later howls echoed through the valley. Eragon smiled tightly as he heard the Urgle scramble for cover. "That's far more ammunition," he suggested. Bending low over Saphira, she growled in agreement and returned to the riverbed. It was hard work, but they were able to hinder the Urgle's progress, though it was impossible to stop them altogether. The Urgles gained ground whenever Saphira went for stones. Despite that, their efforts allowed Murtaugh to stay ahead of the advancing column. The valley darkened as the hours slipped by. Without the sun to provide warmth, the sharp bite of frost crept into the air, and the ground mist froze on the trees, coating them white. Night animals began to creep from their dens, to peer from shadowed hideouts at the strangers trespassing on their land. Eragon continued to examine the mountainsides, searching for the waterfall that would signify the end of their journey. He was painfully aware that every minute brought Arya closer to death. "Faster, faster," he muttered to himself, looking down at Murtaugh before Saphira scooped up more rocks and said, "Let's take a respite and check on Arya. The day is almost over, and I'm afraid her life is measured in hours, if not minutes." "Arya's life is in fate's... here. Let's take a respite and check on Arya. The day is almost over, and I'm afraid her life is measured in hours, not minutes." "Arya's life is in fate's hands now. You made your choice to stay with Murtaugh. It's too late to change that. Stop agonizing over it. You're making my scales itch. The best thing we can do now is keep bombarding the Urgles." Eragon knew she was right, yet her words did nothing to calm his anxiety. He resumed his search for the waterfall, but whatever lay before them was hidden by thick mountain reach. True darkness began to fill the valley, settling over the trees, mountains like an inky cloud. Even with her keen hearing and delicate sense of smell, Saphira could no longer locate the Urgles through the dense forest. There was no moon to help them, and it would be hours before it rose above the mountains. Saphira made a long and gentle turn and glided around the mountain ridge. Eragon vaguely sensed it pass by them, then squinted as he saw a faint white line ahead. Could that be a waterfall? He wondered. He looked at the sky, which held the afterglow of sunset. The mountains' dark silhouettes curved together and formed a rough bowl that closed off the valley. The head of the valley isn't much farther, he exclaimed, pointing to the mountains. Do you think that the Varden know we're coming? Maybe they'll send men out to help us. I doubt they'll assist us until they know we are friend or foe. Saphira said as she abruptly dropped towards the ground. I'm returning to Murtaugh. We should stay with him now, as I can't find the Urgles. They could sneak up on him without us knowing. Eragon loosed Zarok from its sheath, wondering if he was strong enough to fight. Saphira landed to the left of the Beartooth River, then crouched expectantly. The waterfall rumbled in the distance. He comes, she said. Eragon strained his ears and caught the sound of pounding hooves. Murtaugh ran out of the forest, driving the horses before him. He saw them, but did not slow. Eragon jumped off of Saphira, stumbling a bit, as he matched Murtaugh's pace. Behind him, Saphira went to the river so she could follow them without being hindered by the trees. Before Eragon could relay his news, Murtaugh said, I saw you dropping rocks with Saphira. Ambitious. Have the cold stopped to turn back? They're still behind us, but we're almost ahead of the valley now. How's Arya? She hasn't died, he said harshly, and his breath came in short bursts. His next words were deceptively cold. Like those of a man concealing a terrible passion. Is there a valley or gorge ahead that I can leave through? Apprehensive, Eragon tried to remember if he had seen any breaks in the mountains around them. He had not thought about Murtaugh's dilemma for a while. It's dark, he began evasively, dodging a low branch. So I might have missed something. But no. Are you saying that the only place I can go? Murtaugh swore explosively and came to an abrupt stop, dragging his horse's reins until they were halted as well. Are you saying that the only place I can go is to the Varden? Yes, but keep running. The Urgles are almost upon us. No, said Murtaugh angrily, stabbed a finger at Eragon. I warned you that I would not go to the Varden, but you went ahead and trapped me between the hammer and an anvil. You're the one with the elf's memories. Why didn't you tell me that this was a dead end? Eragon bristled at the barrage and retorted. All I knew is where we had to go and not what lay in between. Don't blame me for you choosing to come. Murtaugh's breath hissed between his teeth. As he furiously spun away, Eragon could see of him was a motionless, bowed figure. His own shoulders were tense, and a vein throbbed in the side of his neck. He put his hands on his hips, impatience rising. Why have you stopped? Asked Saphira, alarmed. Don't distract me. What's your quarrel with the Varden? It can't be so terrible that you must keep it hidden even now. Would you rather fight the cold than reveal it? How many times will we go through this before you trust me? There was a long silence. The Urgles, reminded Saphira. I know, said Eragon, pushing back his temper. But we have to resolve this. Quickly, quickly. Murtaugh, said Eragon earnestly. Unless you wish to die, we must go to the Varden. Don't let me walk into their arms without knowing how they will react to you. It's going to be dangerous enough without the unnecessary surprises. Finally, Murtaugh turned to Eragon. His breathing was hard and fast, like that of a cornered wolf. He paused, then said with a tortured voice, You have a right to know. I'm the son of Morzan, first and last of the Forsworn. Hell of a cliffhanger. And there ends our final chapter for this evening. Thank you, Bear. I appreciate you. I was trying to race to the end there. Oh, good night. Val, rest well. You made it all the way to the end, it seems. Or at least pretty close. We'll go ahead and let these ads run, Bear. And then we will we'll say good night to everyone. My voice is worn out. We did a lot of talking tonight. Well, I did a lot of talking tonight. But I can probably squeeze one or two songs in here at the end. So we'll run these ads real quick and then we'll be right back. God, not self-God. He says, good night, Jody, rest well. I appreciate you for joining us as always. It's always lovely to have you. Thank you for the drink, I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and run this real quick. Hoist up the thing. We just recently did hoist up the thing though, I think. A Grim Marion was what it gave me, thanks Google. We haven't done Tale of the Shadow in a while. We could do Tale of the Shadow. Good night, Joseph. Rest well, my friend. I'll respond to your message as soon as I'm off. We could do Tale of the Shadow. That's true. We could do Tale of the Shadow. TikTok is trying to boot me off, so since we're at the end, I'll just say goodnight to the TikTok friends so you guys don't have to wait. Thank you all for joining us. Rest well, and we will see you next time. Good night. Broken Mast Bay. I don't know Broken Mast Bay. Confident in the Old Dun Cow. I'm not confident, but I will do. That's right. I remembered. I promised I would do Old Dun Cow for Bear. So we can do the Tale of the Shadow, Old Dun Cow, and the Irish pub song, I think, and that'll be our songs for tonight. While we're on this ad, I'm gonna pull up Old Dun Cow so I can get the melody, and we'll listen. We'll sing that one. It is a funny one. In just a second. All right, I think I can do the Old Dun Cow. The Old Dun Cow is kind of like it's an old shanty set, so it's a little bit different from what I'm used to. Broken Mast Bay is a Sail North song. The only Sail North song I do is Tale of the Shadow and that's for Matty. But Hank, if you want me to add Broken Mast Bay to the roster of songs that we do, put it in a recommendation over in the guild, and I'll make sure I learn it. I had my Dropkick Murphys channel on whilst driving home and sang Red is the Rose, Sleeping Scotsman, and Irish pub song. Ah, grand. Grand way to go. Okay, so we're going to start with... Old Timer by the New Christie Minstrels. Put that one in for me, because I don't know that one either, Jody. Put that one in for me, and I will. I'll look it up. I have Overboard on the list to learn 2 castle for you and Una. I'll give it a look, Matty. Let's see, where was I? We'll do Tale of the Shadow first, because that's the easier one. Then we'll do the Old Dun Cow, and then we'll do the Irish pub song. That's kind of a send-off song. All right. I set upon the sea to search for phantom sails from tales me mum told me. A ghostly galleon filled with gold she sails alone. No crew, no captain's guiding hand can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Sun and horizon met. I weighed the anchor, hoisted sails, my course was set. My cutthroat crew conspiring with the stars a guide. They point the way through perils fraught and lead us to the one they call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all. She'll give a fight to all who tried to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. A mighty tempest grew. The branch she cried, turn back, but our resolve was true. We pointed bow ahead and shouted, we'll break through. The jaws of hell can't hold us back. There's nothing that can keep us from the Shadow. The winds blew stronger still. The ocean raged against us, tried to break our will. The sirens in the water thirsty for the kill. A vessel reeling to and fro, to bear us to the one they call the Shadow. None can keep us from the one they call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. As thunder split the sky, the lightning drew a shape beyond the tempest's eye. A chill ran through me spine as legend came alive. Avast, I cried, all hands, as we prepared to take the Shadow. As we approached her shell, the skies went silent, seas went calm as if by spell. No sign of fight or flight, were in her all was well. Until I tried to take her helm. Her rigging came alive, she hung me crew before me eyes. She stole me sight and cursed me captain of the Shadow. She took my eyes and cursed me captain of the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, steer clear of her, I fear she'll leech, so to take your life. Heave ho, till first light, she'll claim the souls of those who tried to tame the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Tales of Luria, that being another patron asked for. I do need to go through the list. I went and learned Bear's version. Once silly, I watched A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and they sang a song called Alice with Three Fingers. The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Oh, that's the new Game of Thrones spin-off, yeah? A lot of people are praising that. I'm burnt out on attempts at fantasy television. Between Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, and Game of Thrones, I got burnt out. Alright, the Old Dun Cow. Let's see if I can do this one. Okay, hang on. The tune for this is so weird. It's gonna be. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can get this. This is very old school. This is very old school in the tune. You don't get a whole lot of shanties to this tune anymore. Some friends and I in a public house playing dominoes one night. Into the room the barman came, his face all chalky white. What's up, says Brown? Have you seen a ghost? Have you seen your Aunt Mariah? Oh, me Aunt Mariah be buggered, he said, the bloody pub's on fire. On fire, says Brown, what a bit of luck. Everybody follow me down to the cellar. If the fire's not there, we'll have a rare old spree. So we all went down after good old Brown, booze we could not miss. And we weren't there 5 minutes or more till we were all half pissed. And there was Brown, upside down, licking up the whiskey off the floor. Booze, booze, the firemen cried as they came knocking at the door. Don't let them in till it's all mopped up, somebody shouted McIntyre. And we all got blue blind, paralytic drunk, with the old dun cow caught fire. Then Smith went over to the port wine tub and gave it a few hard knocks. Started taking off his pantaloons, likewise his shoes and socks. Hold on, says Brown, we can't have that. You can't do that in here. Don't go washing your trotters in the port wine tub when we've got all this light beer. And there was Brown, upside down, licking up the whiskey off the floor. Booze, booze, the firemen cried as they came knocking at the door. Don't let them in till it's all mopped up, somebody shouted McIntyre. And we all got blue blind, paralytic drunk when the old dun cow caught fire. Hey, King Norcalius, hello, hello, good to see you, my friend. Wonderful, wonderful to see you, brother. Just then there came an awful crash. Half the bloody roof gave way. We were drowned in the fireman's hose. Still, we're going to stay. So we got some tacks and our old wet slacks, and we nailed ourselves inside. And we sat there swallowing pints of stout, and we were all bleary-eyed. And there was Brown, upside down, licking up the whiskey off the floor. Booze, booze, the firemen cried, as they came knocking at the door. Don't let them in till it's all mopped up, somebody shouted McIntyre. And we all got blue blind, paralytic drunk when the old dun cow caught fire. Oh, I've heard the Seamus Kennedy version of this song. That's the version that I think I did. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Oh. Did it? Okay, for a second I was like, did Norcalius rating? Normally when you drop in, you're rating, but hello, brother. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. You caught us just at the end for songs. And lastly, we're going to do the Irish pub song. We're going to finish up with that. I'm still a little bit... I still need to practice this one more because the tune is old and it's a bit different. But an off night, well, we all need an off night every now and again. I'm planning on taking one in 3 or 4 years. So, the sick note was my fave. I love the sick note, but I love the Pat Cooksey version of the sick note. Thank you, Bear. I appreciate you, brother. I'll give it more practice. Indeed, just in time for songs, my friend. Alright, we're going to do the High Kings version of the Irish pop song. Here we go. Well, you're walking through a city street. You could be in Peru when you hear a distant calling and you know it's meant for you. Then you drop what you are doing and you join the merry mob. And before you know just where you are, you're in an Irish pub. They got one in Honolulu, they've got one in Moscow too. They got 4 of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job. 'Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Now the design is fairly simple, and it usually works the same. You'll have Razor Houghton scoring in the Ireland-England game. And you know you're in an Irish pub the minute you're in the door. For a couple of boys at more until be murdering Christy Moore. They got one in Honolulu, they got one in Moscow too. They got 4 of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job. 'Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Now the owner is Norwegian, and the manager comes from Cork. And the lad who's holding up the bars is only just work. He was born and bred in Bolton, but his mammy's from Kildare. And he's going to make his fortune soon and move to County Clare. They got one in Honolulu, they've got one in Moscow too. They got 4 of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job. 'Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Now it's time for me to go, I have to catch me train. So leave you sitting at the bar to face the wind and rain. So I'll have that pint you owe me, if I'm not gone on the dry, when we meet next week in Frankfurt in the fields of Athenry. They got one in Honolulu, they've got one in Moscow too. They got 4 of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job. 'Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. They got one in Honolulu, they've got one in Moscow too. They got 4 of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job. 'Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Oh, wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Happy the Hound, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tavern. You've marked us on your map. You should be able to find your way back the next time you seek a story. Unfortunately, you're coming in at the end. But we will be back again for more story time come Thursday. We'll be starting a new book, so for anybody who wants to make sure you get in for story time from the beginning, this Thursday we're starting a brand new book. So be there or be squared, as the kids would say. I don't know if kids still say that. I think since Frost went to bed, I'm the oldest in the tavern. I think that's true. I think that's true, Bear. Your renditions are better than the originals. Oh, you flatter me. You flatter me, Tyson. Wolf, you're literally coming at the end, brother. But hello, it's good to see you, brother. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna, let's see, we're gonna pause this. And we're gonna get ready for the, goddamn it, I just finished editing chapter 41 of my book. Spectacular, Happy. That's wonderful. We have quite a few aspiring authors here, as well as a great many aspiring readers, so the tavern is a great place to be for storytellers and story seekers alike. So we're glad to have you. Let's see. For anyone who is not yet in the guild, Irish drinking songs are fun. Yeah, they are. It's a dark fantasy shifter romance. Ooh. Now, I don't do a whole lot of romance reading myself, but I know there are quite a few romance and romantasy readers in the tavern. If you are not in the guild yet, anyone, you can join the guild. Oop. It didn't let me do the thing. Oh well. You can join the guild there. That is the Tavern Discord. Anyone is welcomed in, especially if you are an aspiring artist of any kind. We're always happy to have new folk joining us for stories and whatnot. And with that, my friends, I think this is where I'm going to bid you all. That was fun music. I'm glad that you liked it, Chris Dollar. I think this is where we're going to end up for the evening, my friends. Yes, Maddie is also a sci-fi romance romantasy. No, I'm so far behind, Maddie. We've been having so many issues here at home and with work. I haven't had time for any of my donations of time. I will get to it though, I promise you. I have a couple of other people who have asked me to look over their books too, and you and them both, I think, have been waiting for over a month. I just haven't had the time to do it. Good Nacht, Tyson. Always wonderful to see you, brother. Bear, and to the rest of the barkeeps, thank you for holding up the bar, my friends. I appreciate you for that. Oh, look, magic. I put my hand here, and you can see how I'm talking to you all. All right, friends, if you're over on the Twitch portal, we will be raiding out to share the love. But for everyone else, this is where we're ending tonight. Happy, thank you for joining us. Wolf, it's always good to see you, my friend. We will be back on Thursday, Happy, at probably around 6, somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. on then. Once you have submitted the application, one of the moderators, one of the barkeeps, or myself will review it, and it usually takes less than an hour, but no longer than a day for folks to get in. I put my stuff on Inkit. Oh, interesting. 5 to 7 p.m. Dragon Time, specifically, yes. Farewell from the other side. Happy, we'll hope to see you again. By the way, for anyone who's new, I'm Castle, and this is my tavern. Here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. But this tavern at the end of the world is closing for the night. But the doors will open again the very next time you all seek a story. So until then, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty. Until next time, Schlange vor.
Across the foam where the grey sea dies, I see the gold in your mortal eyes. Leave the iron machine, leave the rust, leave the men who turn to dust.
I see the light, I see the shore, but my heart is tied to the threshing floor. How can I ride where the shadows go when the wind of home is all I know?
Tiernanog is calling.
Beyond the mist where the sea is new,
Leave the world of the grey and the falling.
Ashi,
Harun, I am calling you. 10,000 winters in a single breath. The land of youth, the end of death. Time is a cage, time is a lie. Come to the land where we never die.
I took the saddle, I left the clay, but the ghost of home wouldn't fade away. 300 years passed like a sigh, while I watched the golden birds fly by.